Welcome to another live stream, Legends. Well, guys, so far September has been a beautiful month. Literally set our low and my long September 1st. Altcoins as well, even more beautiful than Bitcoin in a lot of cases, if you can believe that. I've mostly been trading Ethereum, Solana, and Hype lately myself, but I've got a nice running position on Bitcoin now as well, and I like to keep my eye on Bitcoin either way. So those are some of the main coins I'm going to be talking about today. If you guys here with me live have any altcoin requests like I just told you guys there, feel free to throw them in the chat, as well as what time frame you're typically most interested in. I'll likely check out most of the time frames anyways, but I'll see if anything really quickly jumps out at me and that sort of thing. So with that, just looking at Bitcoin on the 4 hour here, I mean, I was live streaming, doing a public one right after I took this long. Just about, well, I don't know, a few minutes after I took it, I ended up streaming because I wanted to explain why I was going long. Basically, we had a Stuber fib here. For those of you who are new here and don't know what that is, I will get into that in a little bit here. But basically, what I was looking at is on the downtrend that we had. You know, we just had these obvious, we had a low here, we had a lower low. This was my lower high. So that's just very basic market structure. That's just lower lows, lower highs. Now, the reason for this red box, and this is where I pull a fib, right? When I'm looking for something more bearish, I'm pulling from my lower high down to my new lower low with my fibs. And notice that I have this fib pocket, that's the 1 to the 115. That's basically my level where I'm willing to accept some sort of a double top, swing fail, rejection, some sort of a fake out, right? The kind of fake out that people love FOMOing longs right into resistance. Don't get me wrong, at this point, I think we're bullish. The fact that we broke that, we tested it so many times, we tested my resistance so many times. I love to see that we're climbing now. But that's basically why I have that red box there. But ever since breaking that, at this point, I think that Bitcoin is on its way to 120K. I know a lot of people are saying that it looks toppy, we're going to roll over, we're just setting a lower high, whatever. Guys, me personally, the way I look at market structure, very basic. Like I said, low, lower low, lower high. If we were going to get rejected here and see lower lows from there, I would have expected us to basically get some sort of a grab up here and then getting rejected and then going down to our new lows. The fact that we broke that range, we broke this, I'm going to say midterm, even a shorter term, but on the mid time frames, we'll call it the midterm. Ever since breaking this midterm downtrend, well, what's next after that? Well, at that point, if the midterm is broken, we've obviously broken some low time frames, which is why I was long from here. But then breaking the midterm here, well, what's after midterm? More so the long term. And where did this swing start is at our all-time highs. That's where we ended up breaking structure to the downside, right? This would have been our higher low on the trend because we had a high, higher low. We broke that and had that downtrend. But since that broke, where did that downtrend begin? It began here. So that's why I have this fib pull now from our highs here to where we bottomed here. So I'm just looking for, like I was talking about, my Stuber fibs, basically looking for a retest of the 786, 886 fib pocket. That's, if we're going to see a strong trend and we're just basically, let's say that this break here, losing that higher low, let's say that was devastating to the market and we are entering a bear market right now. I don't necessarily think that's true. I want to be very clear about this, but this is just theoretical what if, right? I would still expect us to get that retrace after breaking that structure, retrace and retest resistance. And if it was going to be a strong trend, I would expect it to set a lower high in that fib pocket. Another thing to watch for if we do go a little bit higher than that is, again, that swing fail box from the 1 to the 115. So basically anywhere from 120 to 127K, I will have my concerns about Bitcoin. Not even that I'll be bearish, but I will start to consider the possibilities that, you know what, we're at resistance. That's not where I want to be entering long positions, right? I want to enter longs when it's uncomfortable at support, because support is support until it's broken. Most people love shorting into support and love longing into resistance. I generally like to do the opposite myself, right? We all know we're supposed to buy support and sell resistance, but when the time comes, it's very hard to do that because it looks the opposite of how it should be, right? So basically at this point, since we broke that midterm trend, I see no reason why we wouldn't retest the top of this range. And that's even if we are going to be bearish on the longer term. Like I said, I have no idea if the cycle, basically at this point, I think that it's at least very possible that the highs are in for Bitcoin, or, you know, maybe we push a little bit higher and not that much higher. I absolutely think that that's a possibility. But at the same time, that's something I'm very happy to be wrong about. It's just something to keep in the back of our minds because, again, the fact that we broke this structure, we still do have a downtrend until we invalidate our new highs now. So one of the reasons why I have my concerns about this is someone pointed this out the other day, just the timeline between our basically bear market lows to our bull market peaks. And generally it's around 150 weeks, right? If we go from this bear market bottom to where we topped out here, there was one that was a little different. So yeah, this is right around that 150 weeks, right? Same thing here, bear market bottom to where we ended up peaking, our very top there, about 150 weeks, just a couple more than that. Where we are at in the cycle right now, if we go from our bear market bottom to where we are right now, we're right around 146, 147 weeks. So we're getting very close to that timeline. Understand that this does not mean that history has to repeat itself at this point. If, you know, the trend is your friend, generally we see these cycles happen. We have a general, just a basic 4-year cycle. That's been the theme in Bitcoin's history. But now that there is bigger players, there is ETFs, there is governments, there's all these outside factors, that this cycle could be different. And I hate to be that guy because, you know, it really bugs me when everyone, even way earlier, everyone was saying, oh, meme coins super cycle. And well, we saw what happened with meme coins. Most of them turned to dust, right? Everyone thought that this cycle would be different. And I think if anything, it's not that it's going to go, you know, obscenely parabolic compared to other market cycles. I don't think that's going to happen at all just because of diminishing returns. It takes so much more money to move an asset when it has that much more money in the market cap. But just in general, I mean, something that happened with gold when ETFs were introduced is basically it went into a bull market that was twice as long. And I'm just open to the idea that Bitcoin does the same, where maybe it's slower, we have more pullbacks, and it's more controlled, just more, you know, 30% dips and stuff like that, but continue on for an extended amount of time. I think that's absolutely a possibility, but I also don't want to rule out the fact that, you know, so far we have just had 4-year cycles. So does it have to be different? It does not have to be different, right? So we'll have to see. At the end of the day, you know, as it looks right now, Bitcoin looks fantastic. I'm going to start being cautious as we get up towards 120K because I think that's where resistance starts, right? And actually, another bit of confluence here, if I bring up the MDX ALGO master, is notice that the auto Stuber fibs line up with mine perfectly. So that is something that I love to see. That is great confluence to have, that AI is agreeing with my trading strategy, right? Love to see that. The Trendmaster, we do have a lower buy signal here, right? That's something that I watch for too. When these signals start trending a certain direction, you know, that's where things can be a bit of a warning. Doesn't have to be, because we do have mixed signals right now. Now, this, I know this might sound a little confusing, whatever. It's actually quite simple. But we have higher trending sell signals still, but we did print a lower buy signal. So we have mixed signals on the Trendmaster right now. Generally, I like to see everything moving in one direction, and that's been very powerful, and I'm going to show you what I mean by that with some of the altcoins I've been trading lately. Also, the incredible results I've been getting. Hopefully this is actually capturing my entire screen, not just my window. But just to show you some of the trades that I've been in, guys, I took all of these screenshots right before starting this stream here. Actually, they'd be a little bit higher now. But just absolutely phenomenal month for trading. And a big part of that has been mixing that Trendmaster indicator with my Stuber fibs, basically going which direction they are trending and pulling those fibs and just having that nice tight stop loss, having a very controlled systematic setup has been absolutely freaking crushing it this month. Okay. So right now at this point, like I said, a little bit of mixed signals that we have a lower buy signal. So that's where if all of a sudden we notice a lower sell signal come into play, at that point, I'm going to consider that we aren't making it up to resistance and we're actually changing the trend to the downside a little bit early. But until that happens, I mean, we're just going to have to see, right? It's absolutely possible this buy signal holds as strong support and just ends up pushing us right through resistance. I would love to see that. Just a couple of things to watch for there because, guys, I know a lot of people like to mainly use indicators to try and force themselves and to getting as many positions as possible. I honestly, another big thing that I like using indicators for, and I think is equally important, is noticing things with the indicators as why not to take a trade or to consider taking profits or downsizing your position or anything like that. If something in the indicators is working against your strategy, maybe downsize the type of position you're going to have, that sort of stuff. So I love using them for risk management as well. And this right here with this lower buy signal, although I love to see it pushing us to the upside, it's something that's on my radar right now that if we print a lower sell, I'm going to have very serious concerns. I will be closing my longs. I might even consider taking some shorts at that point, but we don't have that yet. So we will see what happens. You know what? Here's a perfect example is we got a higher sell signal on the MDX Trendmaster followed by a higher buy signal. And look at that nice little pump we got. The candle close would have been here and we just pushed right to the upside off that signal. We would have had a nice tight invalidation before, getting tongue tied, below our last pivot basically from our buy signal. So just a way that I use the indicators. It's not so much for those of you who are new here, especially, it's not so much, well, me anyways, when I use indicators, I don't take every signal to be, a perfect trade opportunity, right? I would not be shorting this sell signal, for example, because it's a higher sell signal. Whereas if you were just going to short sell signals all the way up, you're going to be fighting the trend the whole way, which maybe if you catch a scalp, sure. But generally I like to trade the direction that these signals are printing. So it's not so much that I would take a buy signal serious on its own, but if I get a higher buy signal, that is just added confluence to the theory that the trend would be going in that direction, right? Ethereum, guys, I want to talk about this one a little bit. I think it was it Friday or Thursday? It might have been Thursday. Was it my last live stream when I took a long? I can't remember if it was here, if it was in a public one or when it was, but basically right before last weekend, I ended up taking a long on Ethereum. I had entered at the 786 and I had another entry down here in this fib pocket down here. And I had to hold on to that all weekend. Even further, I'm still holding on to that position. But basically, even though it looked weak and we were trading at support for such a long time, support is support until it's broken. And we ended up hitting my targets, right? We hit my first target here. We hit my second target here. If you would have continued taking the same trade, I mean, you could have got in. Laddering in just like I typically do for a Stuber setup, laddering in the 786, 886, the 115 is generally how I like to do them. If you were doing that here, you would have got that set up several times. You would have hit take profit 1 there. You would have hit take profit 1 here. You would have hit take profit 1 and take profit 2 here. And again into the purple box again, take profit 1, take profit 2. And we're still climbing from there. So absolutely holding beautifully there so far. I still have close to half of my position running on that one at this point. So hoping to see it make nice moves. I love to see that, we have tested up towards the top of this range several times. So eventually one of these times, I have a feeling it's going to break and actually get a decent breakout where we get it into a new range a little higher. That's what I would like to see. As far as the 4 hour as well, A lot of you guys probably would have seen this in my last stream, but let me just erase this one just to make it a little cleaner. But another reason why I was bullish on this area here is because I had this fib pulled on the 4 hour. And notice that once again, we were just basically testing that 786, this whole range here, just testing that 786. So just beautiful to see that. Seeing on the 4 hour testing a 786, and then seeing on the lower time frames 786, 886, basically all weekend kind of a thing. So love to see that. A stuber and a stuber. Solana, you guys, I have been so vocal about this since it was down around $150, I think, that I really think Solana's on its way to 250 at least. Much like why I'm looking at 120K for Bitcoin is just same thing, right? I'm basically looking for a retest of resistance because, you know, here's a perfect example, right? We lost that uptrend. We had our high, higher low. We lost that. So we started our downtrend, pulling the fibs from the high down to our lows here. And notice where my purple box ends up there, the 786, 886 runs from, it's actually about 253, but I'm going to call it 250 to about 275. That would be the Stuber fib pocket on Solana on its macro time frames here. And then above that, you would still have to watch for one of those liquidity grabs, basically from 297 up to 327. I would have concerns in that pocket if we saw a rejection, right? If we didn't see a rejection and we just do something like this, then so be it. Just, you know, continue staircasing higher, go parabolic, do whatever you want to do. But if we get something like this where we break the highs, but we don't break the 115 and we get a retest, something like that, I would love to get in a short on something like that. Not even so much that I would be bearish at that point. It's just simply because the risk reward would favor that, right? If I were to, you know, do something like this, and if we're going to go back down, even to the Stuber fib pocket, that's almost, or down to the Stuber fib target, that would be almost a 5-to-1 risk reward ratio. Even if we just hit the first target, that's basically a 3-to-1 even. So just for a risk reward type of setup, that's more so why I would be looking at a swing fail at that. Just a trade opportunity. Not that I'd be bearish on the market as a whole, but, and that's only if we get that rejection, right? But so far, basically 250 to 275 has been my target since trading down here, basically. And once again, using the trend master, right? Look how beautiful this is. Look at all of these signals just showing us that we should be trading Solana to the upside. You know, here, higher buy. Eventually we lose that one and we start trending them to the downside again. But then we have, since that, got a higher buy signal, got beautiful price action from there. Like, where did we get our retest here? About 177, and we're currently at about 228. Absolutely beautiful signal there for a 29, almost a 30% pump to the upside there. And then since then, getting another higher buy signal. And notice that we're holding that buy trend, getting pushed to the upside. So the MDX Trendmaster signals right now are basically pushing the price towards my fib pocket, starting at about $250 for Solana. So I strongly believe that we're going to see that in the next couple of weeks. It could be tonight. I mean, depending, who knows what happens. I don't know. I'm not a timing guy, but as far as structure goes, Solana has not even attempted to, even on the pullbacks that we saw with Bitcoin, Solana never did break any structure, right? We had this high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. So we have not changed that on this whole little trend here. And just, that's why I say, you know, basic market structure, understanding higher highs and confirming those higher lows, for example. Same with on the other end, right? As you said, a lower low, you confirm a lower high. You don't just assume if there's a random pivot that it's going to be a lower high or a higher low, whichever way you're looking. It's when you actually break that structure, that's where you're confirming that level, and that's when I start looking for a pullback towards that low in a case like this. Obviously, since it's a 4-hour, I mean, I'm playing a 5-minute. I'm in a position from up at $221.64. A beautiful position from this morning, or last night rather. But yeah, other than that, normally I like pullbacks. So if I was looking at the 4-hour, I'd be more so expecting a bigger pullback. However, at this point on the lower time frames, everything's still just trending to the upside. So let me just zoom right back into the 5-minute. Here you can see I know I shared this in I can't remember if I shared it here last night or if it was only in my Telegram, but basically I had mentioned this fib pull here. So this is one of those times where I never actually had a higher high here. Normally I would love to see a higher high, and then pull that fib. So notice this is kind of a cheating Stuber because there wasn't actually a higher high here. Not technically a Stuber, but what I did is I used the Trend Master and notice that we had a higher buy signal once again. That means that this pivot point, that's what I was using for my invalidation of the trend. And since we never broke that, I mean, I was willing to pull a fib from there basically just because we had the MDX ALGO trend confluence. And this is exactly what I mean. Once again, you guys, just taking a look at how beautiful this indicator can be when picking a direction to trade this market. And obviously the market does get very choppy sometimes, but when there's trending conditions like this has been absolutely phenomenal. Just higher buy signal, higher buy signal, higher buy signal, higher buy signal. And although the fib pull confluence won't work out every time, just here's a good example of when it would have worked out perfect, right? The fact that we had this significantly higher buy signal, therefore considering this my new higher low invalidation, pulling a fib from there, chasing the price as it climbs, just basically pulling the fibs to see if we end up eventually hitting the 786, 886, and look at that, we come down to it eventually and get a higher low, right? With another higher buy signal from there. So just added confluence that, hey, this is looking like a running position. Perfect. Hang on to at least a chunk of it, right? Don't be afraid to take profits at your targets, right? If you're entering at the 786, 886, obviously your average entry at that point, if those were the only two you hit, would be in the middle there somewhere. TP1, the 0.5 fib, TP2, the 214 fib. And from there, hey, we're getting higher buy signals, so I'm just going to hang on to the other half of my position and hope it turns into a runner, right? So I love trading like that, and this indicator just helps catch a trend like that so beautifully. Just look at that. Would you just look at it? If you just continued moving your invalidation to those higher buy signals, you would never have got invalidated on this entire trend, right? This buy signal, here's our new pivot. This buy signal, gonna move up my pivot, right? This would have been the last one. New higher buy signal, pivot there. New higher buy signal, get our pivot up here. New higher buy signal, technically I can move this now to up here, and then a new higher buy signal. So I'm gonna actually move it right now. That as long, let me just get it dialed in here. Basically, as long as Solana stays above 225.25, that is my current level for the uptrend being invalidated on the 5-minute, right? Not a serious uptrend or anything, just on the 5-minute. We've had such an amazing uptrend here that is currently my invalidation. So if the trend's going to continue, I mean, a guy can just ladder into a position on his way down to that level, and yeah, eventually the trend breaks, right? This could be the one that ends up breaking. But generally speaking, when they're trending like this, if you just kind of ladder in on the way down towards that signal, it's been a beautiful way to catch the trend, basically. So love to see it. A lot of you guys who have been in many of my streams, you've seen me use this many times. I always talk about how I love watching which way these signals are going, but this is a very good demonstration of how it played out the last few days and just how beneficial it has been to me. I mean, guys, we're only 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks into this month, and I over doubled my BloFin account so far this month. Absolutely crushing it with this combination. Loving it. Obviously that's not a typical month. Honestly, it's been an incredible month, so that is absolutely silly, but I owe a lot of it to using this indicator specifically, with my Fibonacci retracements. And guys, for those of you, I don't know, honestly, it's not even that I have any special settings. I mean, I do have my presets. If you want yours to look just like mine, you can go into the Trendmaster settings, and there's an indicator preset, Stu2 Trading. Honestly, there's a couple things I want to get rid of. I want to get rid of the W's, the P's, the X's, the yeah, there's just a whole bunch of stuff. Even the bearish and the bullish divergences. I just want those buy and sells and the trend line. But that being said, if you want it to look just like mine, there is the preset there. But realistically, it's not that I have any specific settings that are doing that. I mean, I look at many indicators that same way, right? Not just that if a signal happens, it's not necessarily anything special on its own, but when you start to notice them happening in a certain pattern, like, hey, this signal keeps happening, but it's happening higher and higher, then you have an obvious uptrend, right? And I mean, it's obviously easy to zoom out and say, oh yeah, it's obvious that we were in an uptrend. Yeah, but you know what? I bet there was a lot of people panicking if they took Solana longs up here, for example, or up here, whatever. A lot of them probably getting very upset as we came down to this level here. But being the indicator was showing that uptrend, it made it very easy to keep a level head. Not only keep a level head, but make money off it, right? So absolutely love that. Ooh, the Crow 4 hour. I will check that out shortly. I just have a few more coins I want to look at. Hype, guys, every day for the last several days, Hype has been setting new all-time highs. I've been very bullish on Hype since about $18. This is another thing, right, with the Trendmaster indicator. So often when you see early coins get their very first signals like this on a large time frame, like a daily or a 4 hour, it can be a very powerful signal, and that happened to be the case for Hype, right? We ended up getting that buy signal, retesting it here at around $17 US. We're currently at $56.77. Absolutely a very strong performing coin. Even when Bitcoin's been getting its harsh corrections, Hype has been performing very strong. Even when it gets its basic pullbacks, you guys, let's just look at this, for example, right? Here we have a high, higher high. That confirms this as our higher low. Not saying you get this every single time, but notice that so often you get that pullback to, I mean, this technically front run it a little bit, but we got so close to the 786 there. You just see that happen so often. And once you can start wrapping your head around how I use fibs like that, it makes it a lot easier to keep a level head and wait for pullbacks, because the worst thing you can do as a trader, don't get me wrong, I have a couple of strategies that I like to play breakouts of. But generally speaking, for most traders, there is no faster way to wreck yourself than to try and play breakouts. Hey, resistance broke, time to long. Yeah, well, you may be correct, right? It might be time to look for longs, but that doesn't mean if you just break resistance, like here, for example, that doesn't mean long right now. It means that there's a bullish signal. Now we want our pullback, right? So that's where the Stuber Fib strategy, for example, can really help control those emotions, because it's so systematic, right? Obviously, everyone looks at everything differently. Everyone trades differently. I'm not saying just because the strategy works for me, it's going to work for everyone. Nothing like that. Anytime you do any trading, you should always be doing back testing before you're trading a certain strategy. If you don't have a certain strategy and you're just trading on a gut feeling, you're going to have a very bad time. And if you're just making up strategies on the go, it's best to back test those before throwing actual money on it. And, you know, TradingView has this beautiful replay feature where you can go back to any spot in the chart and you can just basically play the chart like it's live. You can have your set of rules written out, and when they hit, do you hit your take profit levels or do you hit your stop loss? Take a journal your findings and basically get an understanding of what your mathematical probabilities are. And when you do back testing, that's where you can finally tune out the news, tune out all the chaos that's in the media, everything that is going to affect your emotions and your decision making skills when trading, and always thinking that, oh yeah, yeah, we're at resistance, but this is happening, it's going to be different this time. The thing is, with backtesting, nobody's going back and finding out what were in the headlines when those chart patterns were happening. You're just playing the charts. You know what? If the fundamentals are going to be different this time and your trading strategy is going to take a loss, that's why you have invalidation levels, and that's the whole point of backtesting, right? It's putting your fingers in your ears and just trading the charts. Not saying fundamentals don't matter, but I would never try to trade a 5-minute chart on fundamentals. If you're trading a weekly chart, yeah, sure, but most of us aren't. Oh yeah, look at that hype on the 4-hour, just breaking out beautifully. Love to see it. Again, we have those higher trending buy signals, right? Look at that. Just would you just look at it, you guys? Look at those buy signals as soon as we basically broke the lower trending sell signal. Right from this higher buy signal, every time we end up holding it, right? After we get this one, since it's a higher buy, we never do invalidate that. We set our next one. It doesn't change much, but either way, we don't invalidate it. Get a higher buy signal, never invalidated. Higher buy signal, never invalidated. Higher buy signal, never invalidated. Very powerful tool. And honestly, guys, it's called the Trend Master. It's such a good tool for using to find a trend. Love it. Jupiter, I actually took this long live. I still have about a quarter of this guy running too. I took that in a public live stream. Maybe some of you guys were there for that one. That was a couple weeks ago. Someone basically altcoin requested it. I saw that we were in a 1 to a 115 fib pocket. The risk reward was basically a 10 to 1. And that's the only reason I took it, right? The risk reward. It's not so much that I was super bullish on Jupiter or anything like that. But there was one of those opportunities where the stop loss compared to the gains was just, it was silly. So that's why I still have a moon bag, right? We hit my first few targets. We hit the 0.5 fib, the 214 fib, and the full range retrace for that 10 to 1. Actually, it was about 9.5 to 1, I believe. And it's still climbing, so I still have a quarter of a moon bag there because I don't like closing entire positions. I don't like banking on home run trades. That's why I trade the range first. But if the home run is going to happen, I am willing to ride along with it, at least with part of my position, right? Doge. I know you guys wanted me to look at Doge. The buy signals on the daily, so we actually got basically a double bottom buy signal. They're right at the same level, so nothing super obvious there. Maz, I know we were looking at a Stuber fib much earlier. We were looking at this one several weeks ago. We came down to the 886, got our bounce perfectly there. So since that, we've obviously set a higher high. So at that point, I can move my higher low to the lowest point between the two, pull the fib to our new high, and we have not come back to this Stuber fib yet, so that is a possibility. It could happen. However, that being said, it absolutely does not have to. That's the thing when you're looking for these fib pullbacks, right, guys, is me and all the other people inside my head are not saying that we have to pull back to these levels, but if we do, that is basically, at least you're ready for it, right? You understand that it's a basic pullback towards support of the current range. And so we would have to, well, at that point, I would be looking for reasons to long on the shorter time frame. The 4-hour, same structure. So we do have a lower buy signal right now on the 4-hour. That being said, we also had a lower sell signal, and we have invalidated that level, right? I'll make it blue so it matches the blue signal. But we have broke that level. So at this point, I give a little more credit to this buy signal, even though it is lower. And really just the health of the altcoin market in general. I feel like alts are doing quite well right now. So I would say that it's still looking quite healthy. I will continue zooming in. Yeah, what do we got here? Even on the 1 hour, here I'm going to actually erase this fib, and I am going to take off these beautiful colors as much as I love them. Well, here's another example, right? As soon as we started printing higher buy signals, just a beautiful trend on the 1 hour for Doge. Currently still holding that line. So eventually, yeah, you know what? This trend will break eventually, but so far it is going strong. That pink line has just been pushing us for quite a while here. How long is this? Since we got our last buy signal, we have printed 18.5% to the upside. Absolutely beautiful there. As far as really micro-analyzing structure on the 1 hour, I would say that whether you wanted to look at this as our high or this as our high, we have set a higher high. So I would like to treat this basically as my higher low. So if we are to pull back on the 1 hour, I would be looking for something like this. If the price goes higher, then the range just expands a little bit. But basically, I'm willing to chase the price until there's either a new bit of structure that forms. If we got something like this, then we have a new fib, right? Because we could pull from here to here. But at this time, if we just go straight to the upside, I would just be looking to pull this fib with the price. And if we end up getting a retrace eventually to 786, 886, that's where I like to start laddering into a position. Let's check out the 5 minute. I would treat it very much the same, right? The fact that we bottomed here and we have set our higher high, higher low. That fib pull looks legit to me on the 5 minute, just like it did on the 1 hour. Bring up the ALGO master. The ALGO master had a bearish one. That's interesting. That is an interesting one. Either way, it's invalidated. It is no longer in play. We broke the 115 as well. We broke the lows. That's another thing, you guys. Actually, those of you who are, you want a little bit of AI's help to help you catch these Stuber fibs, for example. This is in the ALGO master indicator. In the settings, there is auto fib levels and there is Stuber fibs, and that will bring up the 214, the 0.5, the 786, 886, the 115. You can change the colors as you please. But something to consider with that is, for it to be effective, you need to understand how the structure works with it as well, because this is an example where just because it's printed there does not mean that it's a legit setup, because it has not updated or it's already been invalidated. It never met my specific rules, whatever. Doesn't always look perfect, but when it does line up perfectly with how I like to pull my fibs, then that is great confluence to have. But it's important to understand how to actually pull them yourself. So yeah, the 5 minute, I would say basically as long as we are above 24 cents, things are looking fantastic. I know that's a bit of a tumble. If we did take that, what would that be to invalidate it? Ooh, that's over a 6% move to the downside. And that's exactly why I don't long into resistance or into a breakout, right? Unless you have another strategy. Like, let's say you were looking for a very tight setup and you're looking to long the retest of this with a nice tight stop, something like that, just for a scalp. But understanding that it's high risk because it's not actually a structural level. You're looking at just playing the indicator, basically, right? But yeah, all in all, Doge looking pretty good in my opinion. Also, the point of control below us. AI charting tools. Notice we are just building demand zones. Also got a higher low signal printed here. But yeah, all these green boxes are demand zones, and the AI charting tools is printing those as we climb. So just showing that, Doge is doing a fantastic job even on the 5 minute, just building support as it climbs. Love to see it. What's another one? I want to take a look at a couple of meme coins, you guys. Oh, actually, sorry, Maz. I will look at Crow on the 4 hour first, and that is one I am also interested in. I will also look at Trump's coin there. 4 hour on Crow, I apparently had this mapped out. Oh yeah, I see what I was looking at. So basically what I was looking at here is on a very, this is micro-analyzing the 4 hour, but just the current trend that we have kind of a thing. This is where we got our pause on the way up, right? We had a pause here, then we went higher, so we had a higher low, and we went higher, so we got a higher low. So that's why I have this green box outlined here. That is basically support of this trend. I have a little bit of concerns that we did break below it. We did reclaim it quickly, so it would make sense to get a bounce and maybe test the top of the range again. And even if this is a bearish signal, it's still quite likely that you would get some sort of a bounce like that. But again, I don't know if that's strong enough on its own. I would still have, basically, if we get up to these levels, it's not so much that I would be bearish, but if the lower time frames started showing signs of rejection at that point, I would consider taking some profits or shorting as a hedge or whatever. Absolutely possible. Trendmaster. See, we have a sell signal, but I don't take that one all too serious because it's obviously fighting the trend aggressively, right? If I was in a long from, oh God, again, God, you guys know what I'm going to say about that in a second. But yeah, if anything, if I was in a long from a previous support level, a previous buy signal, whatever, I would be considering taking some profits with a signal like that, but I would not be looking to short, for example. Even though it's very possible it pushes us down, acts as resistance now, absolutely possible. I just don't really want to fight that trend. But yeah, guys, I think you know what I was about to say. Again, just noticing, look at that, higher buy signal, and we all know Crow absolutely took off after this one here, and retesting it even, ended up getting 150% pump to the upside. And it's not like Crow's a shit coin. It's not a random small cap coin. It's a very large, well-known coin, and obviously there was some factors at play there. But again, it was predicted by the signals on this indicator, by basic market structure and basic indicators. Yeah, sure, the news may have sparked this move, but it was already in the charts, so if you're just playing the charts anyways, you could have caught it either way. Yeah, but that's a beautiful uptrend. Like I say, we might see a little push to the downside. The trend master is starting to warn about it a little bit, but I don't know if that's going to stick. If we end up just getting right back above that blue line, flipping it pink again, and getting another significantly higher buy signal, then we just have our new invalidation point at that time. Right now, we still don't yet, but that's what I would love to see. And at that point, I would love to actually get into a long. If it's a nice tight invalidation, when we get our next buy signal, I would love to long the shit out of that. Here we go. Here we go. World Liberty Finance. Look at that. Oh, I'm not actually in this position anymore. Let's see here. What can I see? Basic market structure. Oh God, this is messy. A massive range. So it could actually get a very large pump and still be unhealthy because, guys, this was our low. This is the 4 hour. So that was our low. This was our lower low. Right? We never had a lower one between the two. That means this is our lower high. That is the highest point between our low and our lower low. So that is the resistance that it would need to break to actually have bullish structure at this point, basically. Not to say we can't bounce from here, right? I mean, technically we are, well, haven't quite got down to a 786, so maybe we'll see that and a bounce. Not an actual Stuber fib because we never broke the downtrend. However, it's still at least a pullback, retesting support kind of a thing. This really doesn't have a ton of price action, so I obviously can't analyze too much about it. But basically, as long as we're below this level, it's got bearish structure. So if we get a bounce, I should actually set some alerts, because I assume it's going to do what Trump's first coin did. And a lot of people, mostly his followers, are going to get wrecked. And I really feel like I would be interested in building some shorts up in these levels. Obviously, I'm not going to set blind YOLO shorts at those levels or anything like that. But if we do get up to the 786, and let's say, for example, on the 5 minute, I notice the Trendmaster start changing directions, that's where I would start to be considering playing the shorts on something like that. What is the 5er looking like? Speaking of that, I had that. Well, I mean, straight down, straight up kind of a thing, right? The dip got bought right back up there. Trendmaster, lower buy signal. I don't see anything extremely bullish jumping out at me, but like I said, it's very possible that even if it's got bearish structure on the midterm like that, it could still get a decent bounce. There's just nothing real obviously jumping out at me at this time. Even on the 5 minute, this wouldn't even be a legit Stuber fib, because we never broke our lower high, which, if I were to map that out, well, yeah, that would be right about there. That would be my lower high that I'd be interested in. We'll probably see a bunch of other ones here. Like if with the indicator, there's obviously smaller ranges inside that bigger range. However, looking at basic market structure, we have this low. This is the next time we broke that. So that's our lower low. This is the highest point between the two. So I would be looking, if anything, I would be looking for shorts if we climbed a little bit higher. I know there's a lot of things happening with that one, like certain people's massive funds getting frozen and a bunch of shady shit like that. So I don't know, that could affect the price differently as well. That could even help the price. So I don't know, fundamentally, I don't really follow what's going on there, but from just looking at the 5 minute chart here, I would start to consider resistance if we get up to the 786. I don't think I'm going to short that one, to be honest, just because of market conditions right now. But I wouldn't want to be longing into resistance. Here we go. Python. All right, here we go. There was a beautiful bullish Stuber fib there I can see with my eyeball. Now we are currently trading near a bearish one. And just to show you what I mean, here would have been where we had our low, a lower low. This would have been our lower high. We ended up breaking that, right? So at that point, you pull the fib something like this, and notice where we pull back to, eventually testing that 786, hitting the first target, second target, third target if you want to take some more. And from there, where are we at now? Well, where did that downtrend break, right? Because this is where we basically this is where we broke the downtrend. Where did that downtrend begin? Because that's where we can start finding or looking for our resistance. That would be a fib pull from here, basically. And like I said, we're right at a bearish Stuber right now. I could just tell from a quick eyeball. Once you see these, you can't really unsee them. I know a lot of you guys in here know that I joke about this all the time, and some of you guys joke about it now too. You look at any chart, and Stubers just start jumping out at you. I look at trees outside, and I see the 786, 886 height differences in trees, buildings, friends and family, clouds. You just start to see them everywhere. Maybe it's a bit of the tism, who knows? But either way, once you start to see them, you really just don't unsee them. And here's a perfect example, right? I knew there was a bullish one there, and I knew we were at a bearish one here. Not saying this has to be bearish, but again, I wouldn't be looking at longing into resistance. If anything, taking a scalp short. Again, I'm not interested in shorting this market right now, but first target, second target, from there, break, even, stop, see what happens. That would be the most recent trade setup that I see there anyways. What's the 1 hour looking like? 1 hour still staircasing higher. Looks beautiful. Let's see what the trend master is saying. Yeah, same thing. Notice we started printing higher buy signals again. Love to see that. So yeah, again, a reason why I wouldn't really want to short that 5-minute Stuber setup. It's pointing out resistance, but on the 1 hour, for example, there's a lot of strength that I see right here. Basically, as long as we would stay above here then. Our pivot here, which would also line up with this was our high, higher high, lowest point between the two. So that checks out as well as confluence. I would be looking at pulling a fib something like this. Not saying that we have to pull back to that level, but that's where I would start to be looking for bullish plays on, let's say, a 5-minute again, would be if we drop to this fib pocket down here. That's the thing with trade setups, guys. I mean, you always hear it that successful traders will always tell you that patience is key. And this is a perfect example. This doesn't mean, hey, I'm shorting it down to there and then I'm going to YOLO long into it when we get there. It's more so, you know, if we get that pullback, I would be interested in longing it. Not so much shorting down to that level. Because since we have that high and that higher high, we have bullish momentum there. And with the trend master printing a higher buy signal, we have bullish momentum there. There's no reason for me to desperately look for a short at that point to try and catch a very small move rather than playing the trend. I want to take a look at my two favorite memers, you guys. Obviously, meme coins and low cap coins are extremely high risk, but you guys know I have been following Troll for a very long time now. Since the Stuber fib way down here, ended up getting about a 20x out of it, 25x out of it. Still hold a good chunk of it. Took some profits on the way, but I'm hoping to see it break out again. I would love to see this one. As far as meme coins go, Troll makes more sense than pretty much any other one that I've seen out there. Troll face, that cartoon white and black face, that's one of the oldest memes that I can think of, the most relevant ones. All generations are kind of anyone who knows memes and stuff, that face will be familiar. So to see how active the community is, they're constantly posting art. They acquired the legal rights to the artwork of it. You know, they're doing a lot of good things. So I could see that being one of those top performing meme coins of the cycle, you know, one that's not just a one-hit wonder or, you know, a meme coin of the day or of the week and then rug pull kind of a thing. I hope to see this one do well. And right now it's about $175 million market cap, so it's not exactly a micro cap anymore. And I think that also speaks volumes for it not being a rug pull. Obviously, if we go into a bear market or the market shits its pants and goes straight nuclear, this will not be immune, right? But as far as if altcoin season continues and meme coins are doing okay, Solana's doing okay, I expect this to do okay, basically. The other one that I've been talking about quite a bit, you guys, you've seen it in the Micro Gems chat, you've seen it on my streams, is Cat with Mask. I've seen some fairly large influencers talk about it, or more so Twitter fellas who have decent followings have been talking about it in the past. And basically I just saw a macro Stuber fib, the first big Stuber fib on the 4 hour. And just like what I was looking at Troll months ago, this is the exact same setup. I don't think it necessarily has to play out the exact same, but as far as market structure goes, we broke a diagonal trend line. We tested my 886 absolutely perfectly, lining up with that. Just such beautiful confluence there. That is a massive bullish Stuber fib, basically. Even if we end up, I mean, I was buying at the 786, I bought more at the 886, I was buying some more up here. But if you ended up getting in at the 786, 886 when I was talking about it in the chat, Let's say even from the 786, where we are right now. Let's say from where we are right now, if we hit the first target, that's a 50% move. If we hit the second target, that's over 100% move. You sell half, the rest is risk-free. Obviously doesn't have to happen. Like I said, meme coins and low caps are dangerous. I think this one's only like a $8 million market cap or something like that. So understand that there's a huge level of risk there. But as far as charts go, and for those who like the Solana casino and gambling on low caps, I mean, that's one that's got my attention big time. What else? Pengu. We were looking at that recently, were we not? Aha, we were. I don't know what I was looking at, but I was looking at something at one point. I am just going to erase this because I don't know exactly what it was. Love to see that it looks like we had a nice trend line there. I could see us ending up dropping a little bit and retesting this. Would not be all too uncommon. Basically just like what I just showed you with Cat with Mask. I wouldn't be surprised to see something like that. Retest the diagonal trend line, retest the 786, 886. Something like that would be quite natural in my opinion. But let's also check out some indicators. Ooh, also notice the ALGO master auto Stuber fibs are saying we're basically at a bearish Stuber right now, and I do agree with this one because this was our low, this is our lower low, this is our lower high, and notice the indicators pulling it from here to here. So just another reason why that could push us a little lower. Doesn't necessarily have to, but again, just something that could happen in the near future here. Trendmaster, that could provide support early, right? For all I know, this buy trend's gonna hold. I love to see that so far, so that could push us a little higher. Let's actually zoom right in. Let's take a look at the 5 minute. Ooh, the 5 minute is on a serious mission here. How do I feel about this? Well, basically, there's a few different ways to look at the 5 minute on Pengu right now. One, just basic market structure. Obviously, we had, well, let's just say this high, right? Whether you wanted to say this low, lower high, lower low, basically the same lower high. Either way, we broke it, even flipped it to support. So from there, if we get a pullback, that's where I would have something like this pulled. Again, we could just go parabolic from here. I have no idea if we're going to get a pullback to that level, but that's where I would be, you know, if this was something on my radar. I'm not as interested in trading this one, but if I was, I would just set an alert somewhere above the 786, kind of see what's going to happen there. Or even at this point, since it did break that structure, I would even be willing to just at that point ladder in some entries there, as long as it was a risk I was comfortable with taking, right? Obviously you want to know how much you're going to lose on your position if it happens. So typically I would look at laddering in something like this, trying to get my average entry somewhere in here. So if we were to end up taking a loss from a level like that, that's about a 1.5% move to the downside. So in that case, that affects what type of leverage you're going to take, right? It's always good to find out, you know, because when things get very volatile, it can be very deceiving. But in something like this, you know, 1.5% to the downside, let's say I'm comfortable with, well, if I wanted to do 20x, for example, I would be willing to accept a 30% loss in that case. So at that point, you know, the amount of leverage doesn't necessarily matter as long as you have an understanding of bankroll management, because you can just downsize your margin amount and raise your leverage amount, or you can raise your margin, lower your leverage. Kind of depends how you want to look at it. But yeah, always good to know whenever you're looking at entering a trade, kind of have a ballpark idea of what your average entry is going to be, and then where Basically, I look at any trade as worst case scenario, right? I just assume when I go into a trade, I'm going to lose it just for the fact of, playing with proper position sizing. If you are ever devastated because you took a loss, you probably used way too much fucking leverage or margin or something. Winning, you shouldn't be. I mean, obviously, winning's exciting and losing does suck, but within reason. If it's seriously affecting your emotions, then you're most likely using too much capital, too much leverage, whatever. But yeah, as far as Pengu at this point, I would be looking at a pullback, something like that. Or the Trendmaster, if you wanted to look at just something trying to catch the trend, trying to catch a long on this with keeping a tight stop loss, something like that. Not something I'm generally interested in. It's a little higher risk, but for those with a risk appetite and a desire to scalp, that is always an opportunity. Yeah, we do have notice. We have volume support actually a little above the 786 there. But yeah, we could absolutely drop from there. Tough to say. Eventually, I think it will break its all-time highs. I think it's only a matter of time. We've tested it a couple times. I would love to see it do one of these, get a third touch point rejection perfectly, and then flipping that resistance into support. I would be very bullish on that, even if it came back and retested that support. Either way would be very bullish for me. Like I said, I will trade breakouts sometimes, and generally one of my biggest rules for breakouts is I need 3 exact touch points and then flip that line, basically. So if we just have 2 like this, and then we do something like this, on a longer time frame, like a 4-hour, a daily, a weekly, yeah, there might be some good momentum there. Generally on the lower time frames, I don't trust those as much. I always consider that they're probably going to come and retest that level again. But yeah, I would love to see it, like I said, get a third touch point and then a break. I would be very bullish on something like that. Well, let's go back to some of my other charts. Oh, Bitcoin's still flying. See, again, look at that beautiful higher buy signal. Absolutely beautiful. And of course, guys, it's not going to work out every time, but it's such a good bit of confluence for choosing which direction to trade. I absolutely love using the MDX Trendmaster for that. Definitely my favorite indicator. Ethereum still holding on strong. Solana still holding on strong. Hype just looking absolutely phenomenal, above 57 US dollars. Absolutely huge. Yeah. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. Actually, since you guys are here with me privately, I will actually share this on my YouTube channel as well. But just a bit of a sneak peek, you guys. I've been hinting about it on my public streams on Financial Summit, that I will be streaming on a new YouTube channel soon for my public live streams. Just to give you a little sneak peek here, how original the crypto trading channel should nail that algorithm. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. I should be streaming there starting October. I'm going to try and start strong, streaming most days there to try and really kick things off there. But yeah, for those who enjoy my live streams, you want to see my live streams that I do with like Financial Summit publicly all the time, I'm going to be doing it here now. It's still through Financial Summit. They are still my back end support, everything like that. But yeah, they're giving me my own channel basically. So very cool, because most of their followers are more Bitcoin maxis and are mostly there for tone and stuff like that. So yeah, they're going to give me my own channel where I will discuss just trading in general, right? I love Bitcoin. I am way more bullish on Bitcoin than other things long term. However, I am very willing to trade altcoins and meme coins and shit coins and whatever, and I'll look at stocks, whatever. So yeah, it'll be very cool to have my own channel with them there. But yeah, guys, like I said, I think that's about all I wanted to go over. So thank you for being here with me once again, my friends. I will still be here after I wrap up here, but for those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX algo indicators that I use each and every day, there's a 10% discount link in the description down below, as well as a link to trade no KYC on BloFin under my affiliate link. Where I do most of my trading, which also grants access to my private Telegram, where I share some of my thoughts on the market, some of my trade setups, all that sort of stuff. Like I said, just been absolutely crushing it in there lately. So if that's something that interests you. And yeah, with that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.